Hi there. In recent months, the buzz around generative AI has been hard to miss, and rightfully so. It's a fascinating field with great applications. One of the most practical application lies in the text generation. So today we are diving into the realm of AI powered text generation by building this sleek Twitter or X bio generator. Now stick around till the end of this tutorial and you'll be able to learn to use generative AI for other use cases or even for your own personal projects. Now let's take a closer look at what this generator can do. So first, on the left side we have configurations, and on the right side we will show the output. So from the settings we can select different models such as Llama 3 8 billion, Mistral 8 billion, and Llama 3 70 billion. So let's select Mistral, and now this slider represents the creativity. If you hover on this icon, it says a higher settings produces more creative and surprising bios, while a lower setting sticks to more predictable and conventional styles. So let's keep it to 1 for now, and here you have to add a few sentences about yourself, or you can add your old bio as well. So let's start with an example. So here I have added that I'm a software engineer and an expert in generative AI. I share insights on web development and AI, and I'm a full-time freelancer. And here you can select the type of the account that you are using. You can select from personal or brand, and here you can select the tone of the bio. So let's select the funny. Now let's click on the generate. Now before I click on the generate, focus on the border of this output square. Here is the beam, and we have 4 bios that are generated by using the Mistral. As you can see, it has a bit funny tone in the bio. Let's keep it professional and generate again. As you can see, in the professional we have disabled the emojis, so there are no emojis in this. You can directly click copy to copy this bio, and this is mobile responsive. Now to build this generator, we'll be leveraging the ShadCn UI components along with some elements from the Magic UI. Magic UI is relatively new, but it has some stunning components that increases the aesthetics of our project. Now as for the AI aspect, we'll be using the Vercel SDK. Additionally, we will utilize Groq since it provides a way to use open source models like Llama and Mistral, all without any paid plans for now. So let's start by creating a Next.js project. So open the terminal and make sure that you are in your projects directory. And let's just write npx create next-app and @latest. Click enter. Here let's name our project as AI powered Twitter bio generator. Let's use the TypeScript, and yes to the ESLint, yes to Tailwind CSS, yes to src directory and app router, and let's skip no, and that's it. Now here we will initialize the ShadCn UI components. So for that, let's go to the docs and go to the CLI, and we can use this command to install the dependencies and add different components. So let's copy this and paste it right here. Let's select the default style, and let's select you can also see this from here There are multiple different colors and themes that you can choose from. So for now, let's use this zinc. Yes, to CSS variables. And it is done. Now it has not installed any components yet, but we can do that by using the CLI. So to add in components, you just have to write npx ShadCn-UI at latest and use add. So this will list down all the components that the ShadCn UI has, and we can select from them. So for now, let's select badge button. You can click space bar to select the component and arrow keys to go up and down. We won't need card. Let's select the form component and input as well. Let's select the label. Let's enable the select and select skeleton as well. Let's select the slider and select switch and select the text area. That's it. Also, let's select the tooltip as well and press enter. So now it will add all these components in our project. So these components are built on top of the Radix UI. And for the Magic UI, we won't be needing any dependency to be installed, because we can directly copy and paste the code of this particular components. And it's done. Now after that, let's install the dependencies for the Vercel SDK. So let's go to here in the docs and click this Next.js app router. And as mentioned here, let's install AI SDK and Zod. Now let's open the code editor. Just write code and dot. Now here I'm using this cursor editor, which is the fork of VS Code, and there are some benefits of using this because it provides features like you can chat with the current model of GPT-4 and GPT-4o. Let me show that to you. So if I want to see what this link does, I just have to select this and press Ctrl L, and here I can directly chat something like explain this to me, and from here you can select any model as well and just press enter. So it will explain you everything that you have selected. Apart from that, you can also generate code as well. You just have to press Ctrl plus K or just click right here and write change this anchor tag to div or something similar and click submit. So as you can see, I'm using the free version, so that's why it says using a slow request. But if you are on paid plan, then it will generate fast replies for you. So as you can see, it is changing the code, and you just have to click on accept, and it will change this previous code. Note that I'm not affiliated with this ID. It's just easy to use right now for a free version. So let's start with removing this boilerplate code from the page.tsx file. Let's just write home and let's start the development server. Now in the layout, instead of this inter font, let's use the font provided by the Vercel. You can read more about it from this link. First, let's install it. Let's copy this. Here, let's just write npm I and font name. Let's check this documentation, and this is how we can import the font sans. Let's remove this and import the font right here. Let's copy this, and instead of this, just write just sans dot variable. Since we are using the Tailwind CSS, so we have to define this font in the font family. So just open the Tailwind config.ts file. Now before that, let me show you what ShadCn has installed in this project. So it has installed all the required components in the components and UI folder. So these are the components that we have installed using the ShadCn CLI. And apart from that, it has also installed one function in the utils. Now this function is used to merge the classes, and it has also changed few settings in the Tailwind config file as well. Like as you can see here, animation and few keyframes right here, along with different colors and the border radius as well. Now these colors you can find on the globals.css file. So these are the colors that ShadCn CLI has defined. Actually, we don't need this dark one, so let's just remove this. And this color are in HSL format, and then it is using the CSS variable to define these colors. So let's add the font. So after this extend, just write font family, and inside this font family we will keep the variable name sans, and in an array let's use the variable dash dash font dash chest dash sans, and that's it. Let's open the dev server. So as you can see, the current font seems like Times New. So let's add the new font. Let's use the cn function to merge the classes. Along with this, we will add font dash sans. Now it should use the gist fonts. As you can see, it is working. Now if you see in this final design, we have this grid in the background. It is a light grid, and I have used grid from the Magic UI. So if you go down and click on this grid pattern, so we'll use this simple square grid. So for that, let's create Magic UI folder inside the components. And in the Magic UI, let's create one file called grid-pattern.tsx. Now inside this file, we will add this code. So basically it is using the SVG to create this grid, and there are some props that we can use as well. So if you want to know more about these props, you can just scroll down, and here are the prop and its description. So there are width, height, and X offset of the pattern. And similarly, you can also add squares in an XY coordinate. If you want to have a few filled squares as a 2D array, and you can also increase or decrease the stroke dash array. So let's use this inside the layout file. So after the before the children, let's import it. Let's give it a width of 60 and height of 60 as well. Along with that, let's add class name, set z index to -10, and let's see how it looks. And it looks great. Now let's use the opacity to make it a little bit lighter. So just write opacity. Let's keep its value to 70, and it looks much better. And that's it. Now let's start building the page. So first we have this button with the gradient border, and for that I also used Magic UI. You can find the text. So here it is, animated gradient text, or we can also use the animated shiny text, but I want to have this gradient border. So for that, as mentioned here, copy and paste the following code into your project in the Tailwind config file. So let's copy this gradient and paste it in the keyframes of the Tailwind CSS. So if you scroll down and find this keyframes, and let's paste it here. Let's save this, and let's use this keyframe in the animation. Alright, then let's create one file called animated gradient-text.tsx inside the Magic UI folder. Let's copy this code and paste it right here. And let's save this. So inside this page, first let's create one div, and inside this div we'll use the link from next/link, and here you can add the GitHub link for your repo. For now, let's just write github.com. Let's open that in a new tab. Let's add class name and set margin bottom to 4. And inside this link, let's import this. Let's add a class name, set padding left and right to 6, padding top and bottom to 2. And let's add the text that says star on GitHub. Let's save this. And this looks great. Now here we have one star, vertical HR element, and one arrow. So let's add all these 3. Now for the icons, if you check out the code, and let's open the package.json file. So ShadCn and CLI has already installed this Lucid React, which is the library for icons. So let's see. Just write Lucid React. So these are all the icons that we can use directly from the library. So let's write star, and let's use this one. So here just copy the JSX, and in here let's paste it. Now make sure to import the star from the lucid-react, and in the class name let's set width to 6, edge to 6, and fill to yellow 300, and let's save this. Let's change the color of this border, and for that we have to change the text color. So set text yellow to 400. Now it looks much better. Now let's add the HR after the star. Let's add the class name. Set margin left and right to 2, edge to 4, and width to 1 pixel. And let's change the color to gray, bg-gray-300. Okay, looks great. Let's add the arrow here. Now for this arrow, let's go to the lucid and just write right. Let's use this. Copy JSX, and after this text, let's paste it right here. Make sure to import that. Inside this class name, let's write margin left to 1, size to 3. Size to 3, that means width to 12 pixel and height to 12 pixel. And transition, transform, duration to 300, and ease in out. And on group hover, we will translate it up to translate x to 0.5. So that means on hover, it will change the position of the arrow from 0 to 0.125 rem or 2 pixels. Now for this to work, we have to add this group class in the group that we want to have this effect. So in this div, we can add this group class. Let's save this. And it's working. Now it is not perfectly rounded, so let's add rounded to full. Actually, this should be right here. And now it looks much better. All right, that's it. Now let's copy this. And after this link, let's add one h1 and paste it right here. Let's add the class name, set font to extra bold, text to 7XL, text to center, width to full. Let's give width to full up to LG, and after the LG, set width to 90%. Here LG is for minimum width of up to 1024 pixels, and let's set it to uppercase. Let's save this. Okay, let's add a few classes in this main. Now along with this, instead of this main, let's add the class in the div. So let's set width to full, display to flags, flags to column, items to center, and justify to center as well. Set space y to 2, or let's keep it to 4, and set mb dash 4, margin bottom to 4, and text to center. Okay, this looks better, but let's see why it is not at the center of the screen. Let's just set mx to auto, in this h1 tag. Okay, now it's in the center. So let's add a few more padding. Now instead of this MB4, let's remove that, and here let's add padding top and bottom to 4. Let's save this, and now it looks great. Now let's add this text. Just copy this, and after this h1, let's use the paragraph tag and paste the text. Let's add the class name set. For the text size, let's use text-lg, and text color should be text-accent. Now there is the text because it is in the light gray color. Let's change the color of the accent variable. Go to the globals.css file, and here is the accent variable. Instead of this, let's add the HSL value for the red color. So just write 349 space 100% and 47%. Let's save this. All right, and this looks great. Now as you see, we have a lot more space right here, so let's change it. Instead of this py, let's use pt-4 and pb-2. Let's change it to 1. Let's keep it to 0. Now it looks much better. Now after this, we'll create one component for this configurations and one for this output. So let's go to the components, and let's create one folder called home. Now inside this home folder, we'll create one component called user input.tsx, and let's import this in the page. So after this div, let's import the user input. Let's save this, and let's create one more component called output.tsx. Let's import this as well. Now here, instead of using flex, let's change it to grid. Let's keep position to relative and display to grid, and grid calls should be 2. Let's set gap to 12. Let's save this. All right, we have to add the call span to full in this div, and now it looks much better. So let's create this user input component. So in this component, we will have a few form fields such as select, a slider, and text area, and 2 more select elements and 1 switch. Now for this, we will use the form components provided by the ShadCn UI. So here, let's go to the components. Let's open the form. So basically, this form component uses the React Hook form library and the Zord. Now, what is Zord? So Zord is a schema declaration and validation library for TypeScript. It allows us to design schemas for any data, including primitive data types, objects, arrays, and more. And it is an excellent choice for validating form data. So that's why we will use both of this library in this form component. So first, as mentioned here, so this is the anatomy. First, we have to use this form component. Then inside that, we will use the form field component. And in the form field, we will render the form item, form label, form control, form description, and the form message. So if you want to dive deep more into these components, you can just click here. So this will open this React Hook form website, and in the documentation, you'll be able to read more about how this form works and what other advanced functions that you can use. All right, so let's open the code editor. Let's go to the user input component. First, let's add the class name, set position to relative, set display to flex, and flex direction to flex column, items to start. Let's set gap to 8. Let's save this. Let's import the form component. So first, as mentioned here, let's import the sort. And let's create this form schema. So instead of this username, first let's write model. The type of the model should be string, and it should be required, so we can have something like minimum length of this string should be at least 1, and the error message you can add something like model is required. Similarly, let's create the creativity, that is this slider. So basically this slider is the temperature value for this model. So basically temperature is if you increase the number of temperature, that means it will also increase the randomness in the output. So AI will be a bit more creative than what you want, and if you decrease that, then AI will stick to the context that you have provided. So let's just write temperature. Now temperature will be the number, and minimum, it should be 0. So let's write temperature must be at least 0. And let's copy this and paste it again for the maximum value. The maximum value for temperature, it is 2. So let's just write temperature must be at least or at most 2. Similarly, let's define content for the text area. So in the content, it will be the string and not a number. Let's keep 50 character limits for the minimum and 500 for the maximum character limits. Let's just write content should at least have 50 characters. Let's copy this and paste it here, and let's change that content should not exceed 500 character limit. All right, then after the content we have a type, and in the type we have two values, that is the person and the brand. Let's use z.enum. Now these values like string, enum, number, you can get all this from the sort documentation from right here. So these are all the methods that you can use for the string. So for the enum, we will first define values in an array, which is the person and the brand. Now after this array, let's add one object, and here we can add a few options. So for the error, there is one property called error map, and in this error map we'll return one arrow function that will return message that says type is required. Let's copy this and let's paste for the role. So for the role, we have few values such as professional, casual. So let's add all of this. Let's change this to role, and instead of this, let's define professional, casual, sarcastic, funny, passionate, and thoughtful. All right, and then we have one more. Actually, instead of this role, it should be tone. Sorry, not the role. And after this tone, let's use emojis. Now this will be a boolean value, so just write z dot boolean. Let's save this. Let's go to the documentation. So after defining the form schema, let's define the form. Copy this and paste it inside this function. Let's import the use form from the React hook, and let's import this sort resolver as well. Let's see, sort resolver is from the hook form /resolver/sort, and instead of this username, let's define all the default values. So for the model, now for the model we will use Llama 3-8 billion-8192. Now this is the model ID for the Llama 8 billion. Temperature, keep it to 1, content to empty string, and type to personal, and tone to professional, and set the emojis values to false. So that's it. And let's copy this on submit function. So this function will get the values from the form, and it will log the values. So after this, let's import all of this. So these are all the components that we have installed in the UI folder. So let's copy this whole form and paste it right here. Let's save this and check this out. Okay, we have an error. So as mentioned here, create context only works in the client components. So let's add this use client directive at the top of this component. So here is the form. So let's see first what this function does. So if you want to learn more about this right here, then you just have to select this and click this chat, and let's write explain this code snippet. So as mentioned here, this code snippet initializes a form using the use form hook from React Hook form library, and it defines the form field and their default values based on the schema defined using Zod, which is right here. So the form includes fields for model temperature. So these are all the fields, and the form is set up to be type safe and validated using the Zod resolver with the specified schema. And let's see what all these components are about. So first, after this form, we have form field. Okay, so form field has a control prop. So this prop connects the form field to the forms control object, which is the managed by the React Hook form. So React Hook form will manage the all the required values, default values, and on change events. In the name, we have to specify this values. So first we will use the model, and in this render function, it will render this component. So first we have the form item. And basically it is a wrapper component that groups the label, input, description and the message. And this form message will display the error message when the validation occurs. So actually we don't need this description. Let's keep the form label and change it to model. Let's save this. Now before we add multiple form fields, let's add the field set. So just inside this form, copy all this and let's cut that. Let's add one HTML element called field set, and inside this field set, let's paste this form. And in the field set, let's add a legend element that will display the name, settings. Let's add the class name to this field set. Set display to grid, cap to 6, and set rounded to, let's set it to 8 pixel. Border padding to 4. BG will be background /10. That means it will use the background color with opacity of 0.1 value, and set backdrop to blur SM. Let's save this, and it looks great. Now let's add the class in this form. So instead of this, let's set it to display to grid and width to full, items to start, and gap 6. Let's save this, and now it looks much better. Let's change this to rounded, and after this, now this form field should be inside one div, and in this div, let's add the class name, set display to grid and gap to 3. Now before we move on to adding the select value, first let me show you what is the Groq and how we will use it. So make sure that you open this website and log in with your account. So basically, for those who don't know what this is, so this is kind of like a ChatGPT, but this is the playground. So in this playground, in the left, we have a system prompt, which is used to describe the behavior of the chatbot or this AI. And next we have user input and the output. Now on the right side, we have configurations. From here, you can select different models such as Llama 3 70 billion, 8 billion, Mistral or Gamma. And you can also set maximum token here, which will decide the output length. So let's try this out. First, in the system, let's write something like this: you are an AI assistant tasked with generating Twitter bio based on the user input. And for the user input, let's add the text that we have used for the demo. So user input equals to this, and let's use the 70 billion model, and let's click on submit. So here are the few Twitter bio options. Now we can also convert this into a JSON object. So let's enable this JSON mode. And as mentioned here, system prompt must include the word JSON when using the JSON response format. So let's just write provide at least 4 bio in JSON format. Let's submit this again. As you can see, it has generated the bio in this JSON format. So we are going to use API from this Groq. So if you go to the settings and go to the limit, so for a free tier, it is providing like a really good amount of requests per day for all of these models. So make sure you go to the API keys and generate one key for your own. You just have to write you just have to click on create API key and write key name. Let's keep it to Twitter bio generator, and let's save this. Make sure you copy this key, and let's go to the code. Now in here, let's create one file called .env.local, and let's add this key. Let's name it as Groq _API_ key. Let's save this. Now let's open the documentation of this Groq. Let's go to the models. So these are all the models that we can use. So this is the model ID that we should pass as the value, and this is the model name. So let's use all of this and create one select element. Now before we add the select element, let's open the documentation of ShadCn and check out the select component. Let's import this. And let's copy this. But before this, let's see how we can use the select component inside the form. So if you open the code, and the select element should be inside the form item. So let's copy all this up to right here and paste it instead of this input. Let's save this and see how it looks. All right. So first, let's change the placeholder. Select a model. Let's save this, and instead of this value, we should place the values from the model ID. So let's copy this and paste it right here, and copy the Mistral and paste it here. Copy this one as well and paste here. Now we are not going to use the Llama because I have tried, but there are some issues when generating the JSON format for the response. So we will use all these three models. Now along with this, let's copy this name as well. Let's save this. And we have Llama 8 billion, Mistral, and Llama 70 billion. Now remember that we have changed the accent color from gray to red. So let's change this inside the select component. So go to the UI, open the select, and let's find the accent color that is used in two places. So instead of this accent, let's change it to secondary, and let's save this. Now this is much better. Now if you see here, we have a icon, and then we have a name of the model, and then we have the size of the model. So let's use this format. Now for this icon, we will use the iconify design. Click on this icons, and let's search for the meta, and here it is. So let's copy this SVG and go to the SVGR playground. Now this playground is used to convert the SVG into a JSX into React components. So let's copy this component and create one folder called icons inside the components folder. And let's add one file called meta.tsx and paste it right here. Now instead of this SVG component, let's change it to meta icon. Now instead of this props, let's use the class name. Now we also have to define its type. So in the TypeScript, you can define the props type as like this. Just add the prop name and use the colon and type the type value, which is string. Let's use this class name right here. So first we will use the cn function to merge the class, and initially it will have width to full and height to full. Along with that, let's pass the class name from the props. Let's remove this width and height. Let's save this. And so we have two models from the meta and another from the Mistral. So let's get the icon for that as well. Just write Mistral, and here is the icon. Copy the SVG file, paste it right here. Now first, let's copy this and create a similar file and change its name to Mistral. And here, let's copy this SVG and paste up to this. Now instead of props, let's copy this class name. Let's remove the width and height. Instead of meta icon, let's change it to Mistral. Let's save this. Let's see how we can use both of these icons. Right here. So instead of this, let's add one div first. Now inside this div, let's add the meta icon. For the class name, set size to 5, which will set width and height to 20 pixels. After this icon, let's add one more div. Now inside this div, let's add one p tag and span. Inside the span, we will use the model name Llama 3, and after this span, we will add the model weight, which is the 8 billion. On the parent div, let's add the class name, set display to flex, items to start, gap to 3, text color to text, muted, foreground. Let's save this, and this looks much better. Let's change the color of this name. So for that, go to this span, add class name, and text color should be text dash foreground, and increase the font weight to font medium, and also add margin right to 2. Let's save this. Looks much better. Now let's do the same for Llama 70 million as well. Here we just have to change this to 70, and for the Mistral, add the model name right here and add this one right here, and instead of this we will use the Mistral icon. Now this looks much better. Now after the select, we will use the slider component. So for that, let's go to the select, go to the slider. So here is the code that we can use. Copy this, first we will copy this whole form field. Actually, let's copy this whole div and paste it right here, and let's cut this. Instead of all this select, let's remove it, and let's add the slider here. Now instead of model, let's change it to creativity, and change its name to temperature. Make sure to import the slider from UI/slider. Let's save this, and here it is. So let's see how we can show the value of the slider like this one. So from the field, we can destruct that value and onChange method. So let's use this value. First, let's add the creativity name inside the span tag. Then after this span, let's add one more span and use the value right here. The form label, let's add the class name, set display to flex, items to center, justify to between, padding bottom to 2. Let's save this. So here is the value, but it is not changing because we have yet to add the onChange method. So copy this onChange, and inside the slider, let's define the prop, which is the onValueChange, and this will give us the value. So let's use this value and pass it to this onChange method. Let's save this. As you can see, the value is now changing, but we have to set the minimum value to 0, default value to 1, and maximum value to 2. And let's change the step to 0.1. Let's save this. There is some issue. Let's first log this value. Actually, this should not be in an array. Let's log this value first. Let's save this. So the value is in an array, so that's why its behavior is a bit different. So instead of this value, let's use this. And now it is working much smoother. Now, if you see here, we have this tooltip that says this message. So let's use this tooltip from the ShadCn. So first we have to define this tooltip provider. For that, we will use it in the layout file. And let's wrap this children with the tooltip provider. Make sure you import that from the component/UI/tooltip. Let's save this. And after that, we can use this tooltip. Now, after this creativity, let's paste it right here. And let's import all these components. Now, instead of this hover, we should have a icon as a trigger. And for that, we can use the info icon from Lucid React. Let's add the class name, set width to 4, height to 4 as well, and set margin left to 1, and cursor to pointer. Let's save this. And this is working, but the position of this tooltip is not right, so let's change that. And let's see how we can change that. Just click on this API reference, so it will open the Redux UI website, and here are all the different props that you can use. So inside the content, tooltip content, we have all these options. So let's first use this side offset set. So as mentioned here, it is the distance in pixels from the trigger. So let's copy this, and inside this tooltip content, paste it. Let's change its value to 25. Save this. Now it is above the icon, and now this looks much better. After this, there is one value that is called collision padding. That means the distance in pixels from the boundary or edge where the collision detection should occur, and it accepts a number. So let's use this. Let's set it to 20 and add the class name, set max width to SM. So this class will apply the maximum width amount of 24 RAM or 384 pixel. And instead of this add to library, let's copy this message and paste it right here. Looks good. Let's add creativity and this icon in the center. So in this span, let's add the class name, set display to flex, items to center, justify to center. That's it. So this part is done. Now let's create another field set for this user input. Let's remove this button for now. So after this field set, let's create another one. Let's name it as user input. Inside the field set, let's add class name, set display to grid, gap to 6, rounded to 8 pixels, set border padding to 4, and bg background to with 10 opacity and backdrop blur sm, same as this one. Let's save this. Now in this legend, let's add a class name, set minus margin left to 1, padding left and right to 1, and text to sm, and font to medium. Also, let's copy this class name here as well, and let's save this. So here it is. Now after this legend, let's use the div, just this one, and in this div, let's copy this form field. Now instead of this temperature, add content, and in the form label, let's remove all this and set this to it should be about yourself. Let's remove this slider, and let's use the text area from UI/text area. Now in this text area, let's add the placeholder. Let's write add your old Twitter bio, or write few sentences about yourself, and let's pass the whole field in this text area by using this spread operator. And let's add the class name. Let's set minimum height to at least 10 rem. Let's save this, and this looks great. After this, we have type, which has 2 values, and tone. Let's copy this div and paste it right here. And now in this div, let's change the grid calls to 2, and along with this, we will remove this text area. Let's change the name to type, and let's use the select element. So for that, we can copy this one, let's remove this form control, and instead of this, let's paste the select. Let's remove all this, just write brand, and in the value write brand as well. Similarly here, just add personal, and in the value Let's change it to personal as well. In the placeholder, let's type select type. That's it. Let's save this. Let's copy this form field and paste it for one more time. Let's change from type to tone, and here let's add type. Let's change this to tone. Also, we won't be needing this, so remove this. Let's copy this and paste it for 3 more times, and instead of this personal, let's change it to professional, then casual, sarcastic, funny, passionate, and thoughtful. Let's save this. Alright, looks great. Now after this type and tone, let's add the emoji, and for that we will use the switch. Let's check the code for the form. So same as in the slider, we will pass the field value in the checked, and on check change we will pass the field dot on change value. Let's copy this div and paste it for one more time. Let's remove this first field and change and remove this as well. Let's change the name to emojis, and instead of label, now in the label let's add emojis. Let's remove this select, and instead of that let's import the switch from UI/switch. In this switch, let's use check if the field dot value is true. On check, it should be on checked change, pass the field dot on change. Alright, let's save this. So here is the switch. Let's add the class. So inside this form item, let's add display to flex, items to center, and in this form label, let's add text to small and margin right to 4. And for the switch, let's keep margin top and bottom to 0. I think there is still margin on the top. Let's use the exclamation mark. That means it will add the important keyword. And now it looks much better. Now after this field set, let's add this submit button. So after this field set, let's add one button. write generate, and in the class name let's keep it rounded, set type to submit. Let's save this. It looks great. Now let's type something here, set this, and on click on the generate, it should log the values. Now as you can see, it shows the validation error message. As mentioned here, content should at least have 50 characters. So let's increase that and click generate. So on click on this button, it will call the on submit function, which is right here, and we have connected this on submit on this form element. So this will give us all the values: content, emojis, model, temperature, tone, and type. That's it for the form. Now if you see this bottom part, the height of the grid is not the full. So let's change the position of this grid to fixed. Go to the Magic UI and open this grid pattern, and instead of this absolute, let's change it to fixed. Now this looks much better. Alright, now let's create the output component. Open this output and let's add the class name, set position to relative, display to flex, and minimum height should be at least 50 ph. Set margin top to 2, flex direction to flex dash column, rounded up to XL, and background will be BG muted with 50% opacity, and backdrop blur to SM. Overflow should be hidden. Let's add border, and border color will be the border dash primary with 0.05 opacity. Now let's save this, and this looks great. Now instead of writing this text here, let's use the badge from this ShadCn. So here's the badge. Copy this, paste it right here. Make sure you import it from the UI. Let's add the class name, set position to absolute, top 3, right to 3, and z index to 50. Now we will show the that colored beam around this component whenever it is loading the output. So for that, we will again use the Magic UI, and let's use this border beam. So as you can see here, this is the rainbow colored beam. For this, we have to add this animation and the keyframe. So copy this, go to the Tailwind config file, and inside this animation, let's add it. Along with this, we have to add this keyframe as well. Let's add this border beam that .tsx component inside this Magic UI. Let's copy this and paste it right here. Let's use this border beam in the output component. So make sure you import this. Let's save it. So here is the beam. Let's increase its size and width. Let's see what type of props we have. So we have class name, size in the number format. So default value is 300. Let's use this. Let's use 1200. Then we have duration, border width, and delay as well. Let's use border width. Let's increase to 1.5 and duration to 4 seconds and set Z index to 10. And now it looks much better. We will use the loading state to show or disable this border beam. Now our UI is completed. So let's see how we can integrate the Vercel SDK. Let me close all this. So here are the examples that we can use. So this is the basic example of generating the text. So if you click on the answer button, it will generate the text. Now for this, we can use the generate text function from the AI, but we will use the generating structured data. So basically this will give us the JSON object, which is easier for us to show the output using the JSON object. So as you can see here, if I click on this view notification, it will show the generated JSON data in individual components. So for that, we will use this generate object function. Now before this, we have to configure the Groq to be able to use this Vercel AI SDK. For that, you can directly open this documentation and in the integration section, go to the Vercel AI SDK. So as mentioned here, to get going with the Groq, read the Groq provided documentation. Let's click on this. So this is the again documentation of the Vercel AI SDK. We have already installed this. And let's use this one. Now before we use this, we are going to create the server action. So if you don't know what is server action in the Next.js, you can directly open the documentation and let's search for that Next.js server actions. So as mentioned here, server actions are asynchronous functions that are executed on the server and not on the client side. So they can be used in server and client components to handle form submissions and data mutation in the Next.js application. So as mentioned here, if you are using the server components, you can directly create that server function right here using this use server directive. And in the client component, you can create actions.ts file where you can add multiple server actions, and then you can directly import them inside this client component. So we will use this way because the form component is the client component. So let's define this action. Inside the app, let's create one file called actions.ts. Let's add the use server directive right here on the top. And first we will configure the Groq. So just copy this and paste it right here. So we have this API key in our env.local file. So this should initialize the Groq. Now let's create one asynchronous function. So just write export async function called generate bio. And basically this function will accept input in the string type, temperature in the number, and model as the string type. That's it. And now here, let's go to the Vercel documentation. And this is the generate object function. Let's just copy this and paste it right here. Now instead of this notification, we will use the data, and here data as well. Make sure to import this Z from Zod. So first this will take the model as input, and instead of this OpenAI, we will use this Groq provider. Let's import this generate object as well. Import generate object from AI. So first is the model, second is the system prompt, and third is the normal user input, that is the prompt. And here is the schema where we have to define in which way we want the output. First, let's remove this. Instead of name, let's use bio. And in the describe, we have to describe like what should it generate in this bio. Actually, let's just write add generated bio here. That's it. Let's add different options for the model, which is max tokens. Max tokens should be 1024. That's it. And let's pass the temperature as well. To know about more options of this object, you can go to this documentation, and here you will find all the required functions and its use. So this will give us the data in the object name. So from the object, we will extract that data and we will return it. Let's open the documentation of this function. So this here are the parameters that this function can use: max token, temperature, top p. There are multiple different options, and it will return the object. And another is the finish reason. So the reason the model finished generating the text, and also usage. It will also provide the token usage of the generated text, raw response, and the warning. So if your model gets any warning, then it will display it. All right, so let's use this server action in the user input component. So first, let's format these values. So just write constant user input values. Let's use the backticks. So this is the value that will go into the user input. So just write user input, and let's pass the values dot content. And after this, let's pass the bio type, which is the values dot type. Let's copy this and paste it for 2 more times. Let's add bio tone and add emojis, values dot emojis. So this will go in the model as the user input. Let's use the try catch block. Now in the try, let's get the data from this generate bio server action. Let's pass the first is the input. Next we have values dot temperature. Then we have values dot model. So this should be the async function. So let's just add async function on submit. And let's log this data first. Now let's try this out. Let's add this example, set the model to Llama 3, set the tone to funny, and add the emojis. Let's click on generate. And we got one array of data, and this data contains one bio. All right, so let's use another model. Let's use Mistral. Let's click generate. And here we got 3 bios. All right, so now we are getting the data, but how we can use this data inside this output component? For that, we can define the context. We can use the context API. So in the src, let's create one folder called context, and inside this context, let's create one file called biocontext.tsx. Now this should be the client component, so you have to use the use client directive. First we will export the biocontext. Now to create the context, we will use the create context function from React, and this context will have different values. Along with this, let's create the context provider. So export const bio provider, which will have the children, and it will return bio context dot provider wrapped. The children will be wrapped inside this provider. Okay, so basically this provider will have one state called the output, which will store the output values. So let's use useState. Make sure to import that from the React. Let's name it as output. And initially it will be an object with data properties, and it will contain an empty array. Along with this, let's add one more state for the loading. Set loading as well. Initially it will be false, so it will send the output, set output, set loading, and the loading state to this children. Now we are using the TypeScript, so that's why we have to define the types as well. So in the children, it will be the type of React node, and we also have to add the types of this values. So let's create that. Just write interface, write bio context types, and in here first we have the output state. So output state will contain the data, and the data will contain the bio. The type of the bio will be the string, and it will be an array. Next we have the loading state, which is the boolean, And then we have the set output function. If you don't know the type, you can just select this and chat with the AI to generate the types. Now this is the React set state function. So for that, the type of this function will be the React dispatch and React dot set state action. So inside the action, we will pass the data as a bio string and array. Similarly, for the set loading, we will pass the boolean. That's it. Let's use this inside this create context. Also, let's add the output value, output type in here as well. And let's add all the values that we are sending to the child component. Output will be an empty array and loading will be the false, and then set output will be an arrow function that returns null. Set loading is also an arrow function that will return an empty object. So yes, if you use the TypeScript, it will create much more boilerplate code, but it is really good for to catch the error early before it goes to the production. So make sure you start using the TypeScript. So let's save this and let's use that. So if you go to the page.tsx, we are using both of these components right here. So let's wrap them in the bio provider so that it can use the values. Now in the user input, let's get all those values. Just write const set output, set loading and loading state. Let's use context hook and pass the bio context. So after the data is here, we will use the set output and provide the data. And also whenever we call the onSubmit function, it should set the loading to true. Let's remove this log and this log as well. Otherwise, loading should be false. Here, let's set loading to false as well. That's it. Now let's use this loading and the button as well. So in the button, it should be disabled when the loading state is true. Also along with that, let's add the if loading, then we will add the loader to icon from the Lucid React. Let's add the class name width to 4, height to 4, margin right to 2 and animate spin. Let's save this and see if it's working or not. And in the bio context, let's log the output. It it should be value and not the values. Let's save this. Let's pass this. So right now it has empty array. As you can see, it is working. And then we got one array with one bio in the output values. So let's render this output inside this output component. First, let's get that output and loading state from the use context hook and pass bio context. This should be use client function because we are using the hook. And after the badge, if there is an output or if it is loading, then we will show the skeleton component. So let me show you what is the skeleton. If you go to the ShadCn and find the skeleton component, so this will show the loading state of the UI, and we can change its width and height as well. Let me show that to you. Let's add the class name, set width to full and height to full. For now, let me just paste it here and comment this out. Let's increase the set index to 10. For now, let's comment this border beam. Actually, it is there, but the color is same, so we can change that. Just write PG primary with 5 opacity. Let's increase the opacity to 20. So now if you see, it is using the animate pulse from the Tailwind. You can also implement this skeleton, or there is no requirement for that because we are already using this border beam. Let me keep it there. Now for the border beam, it should show only when the loading state is true. Here we will on loading to true, we will show the skeleton. Otherwise we will show one another list, and in this list we will use the output dot data dot map. So this will give us the data with index, and let's return the li component and just write data dot bio in the li. Let's set index as key, and let's save this. So here is the bio that is generated. Now let's format this. In the UL, let's add the class name, display to flex, flex direction to column, items to start, justified to start as well, space y should be 12 and padding to 16. Now for the li, let's keep the width to full, text to base, border and border primary with 0.2 opacity, round it to up to MD, set padding to 4 and position to relative, BG to background color, and that's it. Let's save it, and this looks great. Now here, if you see, we are also using this copy button. So let's add this as well. For that, let's create one component inside this home called copy label.tsx. Now in this return, let's use the button from ShadCn UI, and here it should display the copy. But first let's use the useState hook. It is for the label, so initially it will have the copy string, and then we will render this label right here. Let's create a function which copy the bio to clipboard. This will be an async function. It will have a text for the as the argument, and then we will use the try and catch block. So in the try, we will use the navigator API directly from the web, and we will use the clipboard dot write text. And otherwise we will display the error, console.error. Just write failed to copy the text. And in this button, let's add this on click handle click function. Let's define this handle click function. So they should call the copy clipboard function and pass the text that comes from this prop. Along with that, it will set the label to copied. That's it. Let's save this. And now this button, there is multiple variant of this button. You'll be able to see in the documentation. There is a primary, secondary, destructive, outline, ghost, link, etc. So for this, we will use the outline, and let's add the class name. Set text to text-sm. Text color will be the text. Muted. Foreground. PG will be background. Margin top and bottom to 0. Height to auto. Rounded to none. Border and border color will be primary with 20 opacity. Set border dash top dash 0 and rounded dash bottom dash large. And on hover, we will change the background to primary and text to primary foreground. Let's set padding bottom to 0.5. That's it. Let's use this copy label in the output after this bio. So just write span and paste it right here. Make sure you import it and pass the text. Just write data.bio. And for now, let's just save this. So here is this button. We have to set it in the bottom left corner, bottom right corner. So let's use absolute positioning, top to 99% and right to 0. All right, looks great. Now let's remove the padding top from here. So open the copy label, and here let's write pt-0, and it looks great. And we have rounded bottom right to none. As you can see, it changed the label from copy to copied. And if I paste the right here, so this text is copied. Now let's change the system prompt. Go to the actions, and so this is just a simple system prompt, but instead we have to add a bit more complex one, so that the AI can understand that what is the task and what the expected output. So for that I have created one system prompt that you can get from this final code repo. Just go to the src, and in the app open the actions.ts. So this is the system prompt. So if you read, it says you are an AI assistant tasked with generating Twitter bios based on the user input. The instructions are as this: analyze the user's input. Next is the generate the bio, and it will, for that it should follow these instructions. And these are the requirements for the bio. As mentioned here, use an informal and approachable tone. Do not include hashtags or any words start with hash. Highlight the most important information about the user. Avoid using too many buzzwords or overdoing humor. Like, ensure the bio length is between 120 to 160 characters, because 160 is the maximum length, I guess, for the Twitter bio. And provide at least 4 different bio options. If add emojis is true, include the relevant emojis. If false, you must include any emojis, and the response must be in JSON format. So these are the few additional guidelines. So you can directly copy this and paste it inside the actions. So you must install this first. So let's do that. And it is installed, so let's import it. Import from. So basically this is used to keep this indentation as it is, and instead of the current system prompt, let's pass this one, and let's save it, and let's see if we are getting the right output. Go to the Mistral and let's click generate, and we are getting the 4 bio options. And also the tone is a bit funny, and the copy button is also working. So that's it. Our application is almost completed. Now let's make it a bit mobile responsive, and let's remove all these logs. Let me close all this. First, let's open the page.tsx file, and right now we have padding to 24. So for the smaller screen, we will keep padding left and right to 4, and padding top and bottom to 12. But for more than 640 pixels, so for the SM, we will keep padding top and bottom to 16, and padding left and right to 8. And for the MD, keep padding left and right to 10. And now let's save this and check that out. Right, looks great. But what if we want to change the padding values for 840 pixels? So for that, we have to define that value in the Tailwind CSS. So let's open the Tailwind config file, and same as we did for this keyframes and colors, let's create one value for the screens. So for the access, the minimum width will be the 380 pixels, and for the SLG, the minimum width will be the 840 pixels. Let's save this and let's use this SLG value. So after the px10 for the MD, for the SLG, that means for the screen that are more than 840 pixels, we will keep the padding to 16, and for LG, for larger screen, keep the padding to 24. Now right now there are two columns, but for the smaller screens we will keep the grid calls to 1, and for the screens larger than the LG or SLG, keep the grid to 2 columns. Let's check that out. So if I decrease this to less than 840, now the columns, there is only one column, so that's why the output is after this input, and it looks much better. Now also let's decrease the space between these three. So right now the space y is 4. For the smaller screen, let's set space y to 2 and space y to 4 up to 640 pixels. Now for this H1, it is a really large text, so it is a text 7XL. So for a smaller screen, let's keep it to 4XL up to MD, then it should be 5XL. Then for the SLG, it should be 6XL, and for the large, let's keep it to 7XL. Let's save this. As you can see, the size of this headline is changing. Let's also decrease the size of this as well. So right now it is text-lg, so it should be text-lg up to the medium screens. For this smaller, it should be text-sm, and for larger screen than the 640 pixel, it should be text-base. Let's save this, and looks great. Now let's make this input responsive. So up to this looks great, but we should have a single column for both of this select elements. So let's open the user input, and let's go to the right here for the type. So right now it is grid calls 2. So for smaller screen, let's write grid calls 1 and grid calls 2 up to larger screens, and it looks much better. Now let's make this output a bit more responsive. Let's decrease this space outside of this li elements. Now in the UL, right now the space y is 12. So let's set space y to 8 for smaller screens. Then screens that are larger than 640 pixel, set space y to 12, which is right here. And padding is 16. So for the smaller screen, let's set padding to 8 and padding top to 12. And for the extra small screen, set padding to 12 And for the larger screen, set padding to 16. Let's see how this looks. All right, looks great. Let's decrease the text size for the smaller screen. So right now it is text base, it should be text SM, and for the screens that are more than 380 pixels, it should be text dash base. Let's see how this looks on the iPhone 12. Looks great. Let's compare this. Still, if you want, we can decrease the padding left and right. Let's do that. So right now padding left and right is 8. Let's decrease it to 4, and let's check this out. Right now, or up to XS, it is 12. For the SM, let's set P-12, and for XS, let's set P-8. Now it looks much better. But for XS, PT should be 12. Let's set PY to 12. That's it. And it looks great. Let's try this for a thoughtful. Add emojis and change it to 70 billion. And we have this border beam. Looks great. That's the end of this tutorial. If you are interested in going deeper into the generative AI applications, just let me know. Feel free to share any specific example or app ideas you would like me to create in the comment section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.